Hello Keyforgers and welcome back to the 5th Winds of Exchange deck from KeyForge Celebration 2020. This one is Marco, Cop Hollow, Iron Sentinel. We have Brobnar, Star Alliance and Unfathomable with an Unfathomable token creature. Bottom card coming out. Starting out with Unfathomable and that token creature, we have Radar, 1 power. Radar gains poison during your next turn. So a 1 power token. I think that's our first 1 power token we've seen. Straight into Unfathomable, and we have Toxicuda Venom. It's an upgrade. You get an amp when you play it. This creature gains poison. Sunk Cost is an action. Play, choose a house. Your opponent discards a random card from their hand. If that card belongs to the chosen house, make a token creature. A second Sunken Cost. Maelstrom is an action. It's got an enhanced Amber Pip and Damage Pip. Play. Put each creature on top of its owner's deck in a random order. Gain 2 chains. A second Maelstrom, this one without any enhancements. Initiation is an action. Play, make a token creature. If you have fewer than 4 cards in your hand, archive Initiation. Guiltspine Netcaster, 2 power. It put 2 capture enhancements in the deck. After Reap, exhaust a creature. Frigorific Rod is an artifact. You get an amp when you play it. Action, exhaust a creature or artifact. Fathom Reaver, 4 power. Play, make a token creature. While you control a token creature, your opponent refills their hand to 1 less card during the draw card step. Crushing Deep is an action. You get an amp when you play it. Play. During your opponent's next turn, keys cost +3 amber for each forge key they have. Bubbles, 5 power. Play, put an enemy creature on top of its owner's deck. Fugaroo, 1 power with poison. Your opponent refills the hand to 1 less card during their draw card step. On to Star Alliance. Specialist Guthrak, 3 power with Skirmish. After fight, and I believe that should say after Reap there. Capture 1 amber for each house represented among Specialist Guthrak and its neighbours. Scout Chief Kraggy, I believe, 2 power. Play, make a token creature. After fight, after Reap, make a token creature. Rogue Operation is an action. Play, discard the top 2 cards of your deck. Steal 1 amber for each house represented among the discarded cards. Pyro, 3 power with an enhanced capture pip. Splash attack 3. May be played as an upgrade instead of a creature with the text this creature gains splash attack 3. Future Booster is an artifact. You get an amp when you play it. Omni ability. Look at the top card of your deck. You may put it on the bottom of your deck. Echo Reflector is an upgrade. You get an amp when you play it, and it's got an enhanced capture pip. This creature gains your opponent's keys cost +3 amber. CXO Tabber, 3 power. After fight, after Reap, you may play or use a non-Star Alliance card this turn. CR Officer Hawkins, 2 power with deploy. Play. Gain 1 amber for each of CR Officer Hawkins' non-Star Alliance neighbours. Selective Preservation is an action. Play. Choose a creature of each power value. Destroy each creature not chosen. Grunt Work is an action. You get an amp when you play it. Play. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck and put them back in any order. Make a token creature. Ganymede Outpost is an artifact. You get an amp when you play it. Action. Put a friendly creature on the bottom of its owner's deck. If you do, archive 2 cards. Crash Muldoon, 3 power deploy. Crash Muldoon enters play ready. Action, use a neighbouring non-Star Alliance creature. And finally on to Brobnar. Strato Smack is an action. Play, deal 3 damage to a creature. If this damage destroys that creature, make a token creature. Rowdy Scold, 4 power. It put an amber and 2 damage enhancements in the deck. Rant and Rive is an action. You get an amber when you play it. Play. If your opponent has 8 amber or more, they lose half their amber, rounding down the loss. Pelf, 3 power, and it's got a damage enhancement. It has Skirmish, and after fight, your opponent loses 1 amber. Mighty Club is an artifact. Action. Ready and enrage a creature. A second Mighty Club. Fresh Marks is an action. You get an amber when you play it. Play. Destroy a friendly creature. If you do, exalt 3 enemy creatures. Bumpsy, 5 power. play, your opponent loses 1 amber. Brick Nasty, 5 power. After another friendly Brobnar creature fights, gain 1 amber. Berserker Slam is an action. You get an amber when you play it. Play, deal 4 damage to a flank creature. If this damage destroys that creature, its controller loses 1 amber. Unguarded Camp is an action. You get an amber when you play it. Play, for each creature you control in excess of your opponent, a friendly creature captures 1 amber. Each creature cannot capture more than 1 amber this way. Looter Goblin, 2 power with elusive. After Reap, for the remainder of the turn, gain 1 after an enemy creature is destroyed. There we have it, very strong Brobnar house there. Let's take a closer look. So a new token creature here, the Raider, 1 power, and it gains poison on your turn. So on your opponent's turn it won't have poison, only on yours. Now it is a 1 power creature, and when I have play tested this deck against some others, it did suffer against Brobnar because of that auto cannon. Completely nullified this token creature because as soon as it hit the board it took 1 damage and died. If there's a 1 power token creature that has a destroyed effect, that's pretty good, but in this case the Raider didn't see much action. There were other cards in the deck that allowed us to create and manipulate token creatures. In Brobnar we had just the one, the Strato Smack. Deal 3 damage to a creature, and if that creature is destroyed, then we make a token creature. We had Grunt Work. In Star Alliance, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put them back in any order and make a token creature, so you get to choose which of those top 3 cards is going to be that token creature. And given the fact that we've seen Transporter Platform is in this set, that's a very nice combination because you can make the token creature and then return it to your hand, so it's like drawing a card almost. Scout Chief Corrigier, I believe that's how you say it, 2 power. When you play it, you make a token creature, and then after fight and after reap, make a token creature. So it is a token generation creature there. And then we move into Unfathomable. We had 2 Sunken Cost. The action where you choose a house and your opponent discards a random card from their hand. So either way, your opponent is losing a card from their hand. If that card then belongs to the house that you chose, you get to make a token creature. I love hand hate. I love to see cards like this. I hate them when they're played against me. But yes, Sunken Cost, excellent. We've seen Initiation before. Make a token creature, and then if you meet condition, you get to archive the card. In this case, it's if you have fewer than 4 cards in your hand after you've played it. And then we had the Fathom Reaver. 4 power. When you play it, you make a token creature. And while you control a token creature, your opponent refills their hand to 1 less card during the draw card step. Now, with the amount of token generation we have in this deck, that's a likelihood. And we do have other creatures. I believe it's the Fugaroo, which has a passive ability if your opponent draws 1 less card. So if you have both of these out on the board and a token creature, your opponent's drawing 2 less every turn. That's pretty impressive. With the Saurion and with the Sanctum that are in this set, I believe the high armor could really nullify this Raider. But if you're able to take out the armor through direct damage or some other means with other creatures first, Raider is going to be an okay token creature. I don't think it's the best I've seen, but poison's always good. It's a nice deterrent. Let's have a look at the rest of the deck. The breakdown for this deck was 15 creatures, 14 actions, 5 artifacts and 2 upgrades. There was 12 printed amber, 1 of them was enhanced. There was also 2 capture and 2 damage enhancements as well. If we get straight into amber control, we start out with Unfathomable. We had Crushing Deep. It's an action. When you play it, during your opponent's next turn, keys cost +3 amber for each forged key they have. So it's either going to be 0, 3 or 6, because if they've got 3 forged keys, they're winning. So very, very nice. They're just to increase your opponent's key costs. And it's not the only increase in the deck as well. Specialist Guthrak, 3 power with Skirmish. After fight, and I'm pretty sure that should say after reap there, it captures 1 for each house represented among, or should I say amongst, itself and its neighbours. It's a little confusing on the words there. So if you had an Unfathomable and a Brobnar either side, you'd also have Star Alliance, because it counts itself, it would capture 3 amber. I believe I'm reading that correctly. Echo Reflector upgrade, we've seen it before. This one hit a capture enhancement. It's a straight your opponent's keys cost +3, and it's a passive effect on an upgrade. Combine that with the Crushing Depth. That could be 6 or 9 to your opponent's key costs. And then in Brobnar, we had Scaling Amber Control with Rant and Rive. An action with a play effect of if your opponent has 8 amber or more, they lose half their amber, rounding down the loss. So it's not a guaranteed you shall not forge if they've got a lot of amber. I would say anything above 12 and you're in trouble, but with the increased key costs in this deck, it could be very, very effective at taking your opponent clear off a check if you've increased their key cost by 6 or 9. We had Pelf, 3 power with Skirmish, and after fight your opponent loses 1 amber. It hit one of those damage enhancements as well. Bumpsy's returning, 5 power, play effect, your opponent loses 1. Berserker Slam, good old favourite of 4 damage to a flank creature. If it destroys that creature, its controller loses 1, so we could play it on ourselves, but I think there would only be very small circumstances we'd want to do that. And then Unguarded Camp. For each creature you control in excess of your opponent, a friendly creature captures 1 amber. Each creature cannot capture more than 1 amber this way. Now we've only got 15 creatures in the deck. It's a little below average, I think. But with tokens in this set, Unguarded Camp could either be good, could be bad. If you're controlling the board, you're ahead anyway. It's just one of those nice cards where if your opponent is just ramping up through actions, this is a clear way to just take them off for a turn and then hopefully get some of that increased key cost in. There was no steal or capture in there, so none of it can count towards our expected amber, but if we start with Star Alliance, we had a Rogue Operations. We talked about this card before. I love this card. You discard the top 2 cards of your deck. You steal 1 for each house represented among the discarded cards. And we did, in fact, get a grunt work as well when we was looking through our token creatures, which allows us to make a token creature. So what we would do, you could stack it for steal, you could stack it for a card you wanted to be a token creature. Really, really nice combo there. CXO Taba returns. After fight, after reap, you may use a non-Star Alliance card this turn. I put it under Amber Generation because you could reap, but it could also go under creature control because you could also fight with that creature, or you could play another card that is non-Star Alliance. It's a out-of-house cheat. Seer Officer Hawkins, playability there with that deploy to gain 1 for each of its neighbours that is non-Star Alliance. Crash Muldoon makes a return, 3 power deploy, enters play ready, and it has the action of use a neighbouring non-Star Alliance creature. Again, you could reap. And then in Brobnar, we had Fresh Marks. Action with an Amber Pip. You have to destroy a friendly creature to play it. If you do, you exalt 3 enemy creatures. So if you know you're going to be taking out your opponent's board, and maybe you've got a Raider token on there that's pretty useless, destroy it, or destroy another creature you've already used this turn. Exalt the enemy creatures, and that's a straight 3 gain for you if you take them out. We had Brick Nasty, 5 power. After another friendly Brobnar creature fights, gain 1 amber. If you can maintain a Brobnar board, it's going to ramp up pretty quick. And finally in Brobnar, we had Looter Goblin, 2 power elusive. And after reap for the remainder of the turn, gain 1 after an enemy creature is destroyed. So Brobnar, very much the standout house for me in Winds of Exchange, especially when it comes to Amber Generation. It reminds me of a good old AOA rush deck, this Brobnar that has returned here. Unfortunately, we didn't get any artifact control, unless you managed to discard it out of your opponent's hand, but creature control wasn't bad either. Toxicuda Venom, it's an upgrade that gives a creature poison. We had 2 Maelstrom, one of them enhanced with the Amber Pip and a Damage Pip, and when you play it, you put each creature on top of its owner's deck in a random order, and you gain 2 chains. So if you are behind on board, if you feel like you just need a quick reset, or if you think I've got token creatures that I need to draw into pretty soon, this is a nice way of putting them back. The Guiltspine Netcaster returning, enhance those 2 capture pips, and with that after reap action of exhausting a creature so it's not ready for your opponent's next turn. Frigorific Rod, action of exhaust a creature or an artifact, which is actually very, very handy. And then Bubbles as well. Creature control, 5 power, put an enemy creature on top of its owner's deck. Can be very, very annoying. It does say enemy, unfortunately, so we can't put one of our token creatures on top of our deck if we've accidentally tokened it and we need that card. In Star Alliance, we had the Pyro. 3 power. It hit one of those capture enhancements and it's got splash attack 3. You can also play it as an upgrade and give another creature splash attack 3. Very nice for getting around those taunts and at those nice elusive creatures that they might be guarding. Another almost board wipe would be Selective Preservation. Action in Star Alliance. You choose a creature of each power value and then you destroy each creature not chosen. We had 2 Mighty Club artifacts in Brobnar with the action of ready and enrage a creature. Now, you will only be able to use that creature if it's a Brobnar turn. It doesn't say you can fight with it or reap with it, but one advantage I did find with this was you can ready and enrage your opponent's creatures, so you can stop them from using a good action, omni ability or reap. It's kind of a soul fiddle in that respect, but if you're using it on your own Brobnar creatures, you can ready and fight again. And like you've seen, we've got some nice rewards if we keep fighting. And the Strato Smack. 3 power to a creature. If it destroys that creature, makes a token creature. We just looked at that one. Those were the main cards of the deck. The other cards were just our token cards. We had the Rowdy Scold, which put the Amber enhancement and the 2 damage enhancements in the deck. 4 power Brobnar creature there. The Fugaroo, which I talked about in the token generation. 1 power poison, and your opponent refills their hand to 1 less card during their draw card step. And then in Star Alliance, we had the 2 artifacts, the Ganymede Outpost, to put a friendly creature on the bottom of its owner's deck. If you do, archive 2 cards. Nice way of getting token creature cards back into our deck. Yes, they're on the bottom, but at least we're going to draw into them, especially if you're close to shuffling. And then we get to archive 2 cards from our hand. And then we had Future Booster. More the ability of look at the top card of our deck, and then we may put it on the bottom if we wish. Again, very nice for making sure we don't token creature those important cards that we might need. This deck was pretty impressive. When I played against it, I had the autocannon out, so the Raiders never hit the board, but the game still went on. We didn't really set a time limit. The game went on for about 1 hour and 15 minutes because the amount of control this deck has, especially in that Brobnar, and the amount of control my other deck had, it was really fun to play against, but very tiring when we got to the end. I've got one more deck left. It does have the same houses as this deck, but there is a different token creature. All that remains for me to say is good luck, have fun, keep forging.